Governor Kasich urges Ohio to think long-term. Joining us on Columbus on the Record this week, Mark Niquette, reporter for Bloomberg News. Jim Siegel, State House reporter for the Columbus Dispatch. Terry Casey, Republican strategist, and Sandy Tice of Progress, Ohio. In his State of the State address, Governor John Kasich urged lawmakers and Ohioans to think long-term but act now. With job growth lagging other states, Kasich continued to tout tax reform and limited spending as the keys to job growth, but he says the new jobs will be high-tech, require innovative thinking, and workers with different skills.
The Midwest is ripe for investment, it's ripe for development, it's ripe for growth, and Ohio is at the center of it. The only thing that can hold us back is if we sit on our hands or stop and rest. I heard somebody talking, oh, you know, so much has been done. Can't we take a break? Can't we slow down? Yeah, if you want to lose. We cannot slow down. This is the 21st century. We've got to put our foot on the gas.
Jim Siegel, aside from the opiate research proposal, which we'll get to in a moment, were there any big policy initiatives in this State of the State address?
Nope.
Nope.
None.
So why is that? Is it money so tight?
Because
or
it's his seventh State of the State. He's not doing a lot of big policies anymore in terms of new stuff. He still has some other, you know, older stuff he still wants to get done on tax reform and other things. He's still pushing some higher ed initiatives like he was talking about there, although I don't know who in the world he heard actually tell him that he's doing too much and should slow down. But, you know, he does want to see some more initiatives to help people get into higher education, get into post high school job training that can get them the skills to do these new jobs. And frankly, that is, I think, remains one of Ohio's biggest weaknesses, is that we just don't have when you look at our numbers compared to nationally, the percentage of students who go on from high school and get these, get higher education degrees, get more technical training, it's just, we lag everyone else, and we need to open up more access, and we need to change the mindsets.
So Terry, is there any money in this budget to improve education, to fund local schools, to fund innovation in the classroom, to get these workers retrained?
Well, the revenue's tightened up partly because we are in a mystery time of what happened to some of the income tax withholding, and we might not know till June, after people do their April 18th filing. Are people shifting to be contract employees as opposed to regular employees? We don't know how that's affected things in 2016. So June's going to be the key thing, but there's a lack of money. But the thing that impressed me the most is, compared to some other governors we've had in the past, both Democrat and Republican, who were focused on the Ohio of the past, manufacturing, this governor's saying there's new things, artificial intelligence, self-driving vehicles. There's a lot of change, and we want to anticipate and be ready for that new world.
Sandy, are you the person who told him he was going too fast?
I certainly wasn't. I think one of the biggest job growth sectors in the country is alternative and renewable energy manufacturing. Ohio makes the parts. We make the bearings for the windmills, we make the coating for the blades, we make the things on the back of the solar panels and the solar panels. And because the Republicans keep messing with the rules, businesses don't know what to do in Ohio, and we are losing jobs to other states because of it. We can't give up on manufacturing. That's still a big part of what we do. And if we would invest in the green energy economy, we would have good paying, family sustaining jobs with benefits.
Mark, where do we rank in comparison to other Midwestern states who are facing the same situation? They're former factory, Rust Belt powered states. Now they're having to find new ways to earn income and create jobs.
Well, we're actually still behind, I think, other states. And nationally, the stats just aren't very good. If you look at from the time, the month before Governor Kasich took office till today, we're like 25th in job growth, 31st in growth of personal income, and 34th in home price sales. So, the problem with Ohio is it's still, the structure of the economy is such that I think Governor Kasich has tried to diversify, as he says, and move away from an over-reliance, particularly on manufacturing, but it just hasn't kept pace with the rest of the country. And I think the problem he's going to have going forward is, you could talk about the future as much as you want, we still have, as Jim said, this problem of a mismatch between the available jobs that are out there and the education that kids are getting.
And we're actually Ohio's doing much better in manufacturing output. The good news or the bad news is that whether it's a Honda, it's a number of different companies in Ohio, they're producing a lot more and they don't need as many workers. So Ohioans are being more productive.
And robots are being more productive.
Well, but it takes people to manage and set up that kind of equipment to make it all work. And again, that's why the governor, he talked a lot about Amazon, and I think there's something like 6,000 jobs. That's a lot of jobs, and as retailing is shrinking up brick and mortar, the good thing is we've got a placeholder. We're involved with Amazon and others.
I was gonna say, this also ties into the governor's opposition to the clean energy mandates bill that passed the House, the one that would basically make all those mandates voluntary rather than permanent. Now, certainly you can have an argument about whether or not that's the right thing to do, but the governor has decided that he doesn't like it. He sees that as part of the vision for the future, as part of pushing Ohio toward things like the future of energy.
What about state revenues, Jim? Are we still going to see some kind of a tax cut? What were the lawmakers thinking as they watched the speech? They don't like the fracking tax. That's not going to happen. They don't like increasing or expanding the sales tax. But will there be any tax cut?
Well, Speaker Cliff Rosenberger has said yes. Now he said yes about a week and a half ago, before the new revenue numbers came out. The Republican legislature had already decided that they are not going to do what the governor wants, which is about a $3.1 billion income tax cut, offset by about $3.1 billion in tax increases, much of it through the sales tax. But they do still want to do some tax cutting. However, this will be interesting because the revenues are missing badly. They're $615 million now below estimates, and they could approach $1 billion below estimates before we're done. And if that's the case, they're going to significantly revise downward the revenue estimates for the new budget that they're currently debating. And so, no, this is not a situation that any lawmaker has dealt with in Ohio since 2009, where the revenues have trended the wrong way. And so the vast majority of lawmakers in office have never had to deal with this. So it'll be curious to see what they do.
But the governor's biggest priority is to make sure when his 2-year term finishes that the state's still in solid financial shape. So if there aren't tax cuts, the higher priority is going to be make sure that we don't run out of money or have a big budget hole at the end of his term.
But the revenue problem is a real concern because these were conservative estimates to begin with. So we're off from what these weren't high ceiling kind of numbers to begin with. And the national economy, while it's slowing down, has been doing a lot better than what Ohio has. So we're clearly not keeping pace. In fact, the governor said before the beginning of the year he thought we were heading into a recession, and there's a real mismatch, I think, with what's happening in the Ohio economy and the national economy.
We still don't know what's going to happen with the feds and Medicaid, and we might not know that by the end of June when the budget's going to be adapted.
A real concern is Tim Keene, the state budget director, this week testifying before the Senate Finance Committee, said he doesn't even understand why we're doing so badly. They're just, not only are we mismatching with the rest of the nation, we're mismatching with our own numbers. Our employment and wage numbers should not be reflecting of revenues that are coming in so low.
See, any Democrats would say we had too many tax cuts that didn't have the impact that they were supposed to have.
We've been cutting Republicans have been cutting taxes for rich people for 9 years and promising this economic recovery as a result. It hasn't happened in the past. It's not going to happen in the future.
All right, let's get to our next topic. With an average of 8 people in Ohio dying every day from opiate or heroin overdoses, Governor Kasich took on the issue in his State of the State address. He has faced criticism for not putting more money into treatment programs. Kasich instead announced a plan to invest $20 million into research.
I'm asking the Third Frontier Commission to provide up to $20 million to help bring new scientific breakthroughs to the battle against drug abuse and addiction. These funds will target existing proven ideas that simply need an extra push to be brought to the fight. Ideas like using a simple device that connects to someone's ear that can relieve pain, and it blocks the effects of opiate withdrawal.
Experts call the plan exciting, but with possible benefits still years away. People working with addicts, trying to find them medication or inpatient hospital beds, say what the state needs now is more money for treatment. Cindy, there is a balance. You want to be innovating to try to find a long-term solution, but when you've got 8 people dying a day, you need help now. So what is that balance?
Well, we have got to get more treatment beds, and people say they're expensive. We're paying for it anyway. We're locking people up, And then when they come out of prison or come out of jails, they're still addicts. We need to get more treatment beds. All the people in the medical field, in the addiction services field say that's what we need. We have our coroners setting up mobile morgues or renting space from funeral homes because they don't have enough space for the bodies and the people who are dying. This is a public health crisis, and it needs immediate treatment resources.
Well, the only problem, and I talked to Paul Coleman, who recently retired as the very respected head of Maryhaven, and part of it is a question of money, and I think the state of Ohio puts about $1 billion into this area, but you've also got to have the facilities, the beds. The question, can hospitals help in that area? But there's a real shortage, a real need. You just can't snap your fingers. You got to have the doctors, you got to have the nurses, you got to have the people of the expertise, and you've also got to have people who are affected this way who want to take the treatment, want to get cured, want to get the help.
Does that $1 billion include Medicaid expansion?
I think that's part of it, because part of what the governor did
So
on
it's not
Medicaid.
just $1 billion on opiates, it's $1 billion on health care.
Right, but part of it, the governor better linked Medicaid and being able to help people on mental health and drug addiction kind of problems, which was innovative. And I remember people like Sandy praising and saying was enlightened, and the governor appreciates those nice words.
It has to be a more comprehensive approach. People who do treatment, do inpatient treatment, they say as soon as a bed comes open, there are people lining up to get them. So I think people do want the treatment, and what I'm hearing from the medical community is there are other resources available that they can use.
Why not spend $20 million, Jim, on the treatment, and why put it into this research? Is there a budgetary reason for that, using the third frontier money, which is innovation funded type of things?
Yeah, I don't think he'd be able to put third frontier money into treatment, and I don't know that I've heard anyone say that's a bad idea to spend some money to try to figure out what are some innovative ways to deal with this, because the problem, I think we've mentioned eight deaths a day. That's an old number. I think it's more like 10 or 11 now, maybe even 12 from what the numbers that we're starting to hear come back from the counties. But it needed to, the thought I've heard is that, yes, they should have been fine. However, you should have followed up with the next paragraph, which should have said, and I'm going to push X amount of money into more treatment. And I know there are House Republicans dealing with the budget right now who believe that this is not enough. This $20 million, they need to do more in treatment. But as we said in the last segment, money is going to be very tight, and it's just going to be a difficult boulder to roll up that hill.
Mark, Rob Portman, this was one of his key issues in his campaign, and he successfully won re-election pretty easily because it's a big issue in rural Ohio. Isn't there the political will to convince rural lawmakers that they should spend money on these treatments, spend government money to help folks kick this habit, overcome these addictions?
I think there should be, and even Senator Portman is still trying to get Congress to fully fund the measure that he got approved, and it's such a complicated and difficult topic, obviously, and one of the things I think I like about what the governor has to say, he talks about how it has to be from the bottom up, or that the communities have to be as active. It seems to me you need all of it, right? You need the $20 million for the third frontier to look to the future in treatments. You need more money for treatment, but I think you also need more engagement at the local level, and I think you are seeing that happen around the state. At least you hear anecdotally, examples of community groups that are trying to do this, because it just seems to me, you could throw as much money as you want, but until you get more of a cultural fight against this, it's not going to get some progress.
And we've made some progress because, what was happening, like in southern Ohio with the pill mills and doctors and other so-called professionals abusing things, it was really bad, and it took a while for a lot of people in Columbus and bigger cities to realize it. So we made progress, but we've got a long way to go.
Sandy, one thing we're not hearing a lot of is we need more money for police enforcement. I think you hear some of it, and there is some enforcement going on, and it's a crucial part. But the war on drugs from the 80s and 90s was all police-based. Do you see a difference in how, even with the innovation versus treatment argument, at least it's not police versus treatment?
Ohio leads the nation in opioid overdose deaths. We're worse than anybody else in the country, which is really amazing. And so what we need is money for treatment. And the Rainy Day Fund has $2 billion in it. If this isn't raining, I don't know what is.
And I think the governor mentioned that the Highway Patrol had a record year for seizures of heroin and other drugs. So it is, but at the same time, you do hear lawmakers say we need to give local communities the tools they need. Well, a lot of these local communities would be happy to remind them that they've been seeing budget cuts from the state for years, and there are some additional issues in this budget as well, with a Medicaid sales tax that's going to hit some counties and that type of thing. So you know, like a lot of folks, they want to see the money put behind the words, and I don't know how much money is there.
All right. Columbus voters could have two options for expanding city council should they choose to do that. One plan seems to have the endorsement of Democrats and current city leaders. It would expand council from 7 to 9 members. Members would live in specific districts, but they would be elected citywide. Now, there's a new proposal submitted by the group that tried but failed to change city council last year. This plan would nearly double the size of council to 13 members, and 10 of those members would not only live in districts, but they would be elected by only voters in those districts. Both plans could be on the ballot this fall. Terry Casey, which one do you like?
Well, I'm not sure I like either one. I mean, on one hand, City Hall's idea to be kind of like elected state representatives in Franklin County. The 10 of them will vote on them countywide, but they have to live in different districts. People would laugh at that. So I'm not sure that plan passes the smell test. The other plan put together by the citizen group is a big improvement. I talked to City Council member Mike Stinziano last night in Clintonville at an area commission meeting, and it's got some improvements, and it doesn't have the big holes in it that their previous plan did, but there's still some problems and issues. And if it goes to the ballot, guess what? City Hall, with big contributors from the zoning community, will spend $1 million to try and shoot it down. So they're talking about it, but I'm not sure either plan is quite ready for prime time.
Sandy, if I recall, you kind of liked the idea of district representation when issue 1, last year's ballot issue, was on the ballot, but you didn't like the plan they came up with. Is this plan, the new citizen plan, is it better than the one they did last time?
The citizen plan was put together by a gentleman named Jonathan Beard, and Jonathan has a long history of questionable ethics, and we had a personal encounter with this at Progress Ohio. We fired a guy after he stole from us. We gave him a second chance. We fired him again, and then he came in, he hacked into our system, and he took all of our emails, our fundraising lists, our national contacts. He worked with Jonathan on some of these plans.
Jonathan wasn't connected to the theft.
No, he was not at all. But one measure of a man is the company he keeps, and these people are not reformers. That's also, I agree with Terry on the City Hall plan. I think it's very strange. If you're going to have ward representation, have the people in the wards elect them. I live between German Village with a lot of money and the South End with not a lot of money. My neighborhood's in transition. We have terrible problems there that I don't feel as if the city addresses the way it should be, and I would like to see another plan.
How many city council members do we need?
I was wondering that myself, and as someone who doesn't live in Columbus and will never vote on this, I looked at this, I'm like, who needs 13 members on a council? I mean, I don't know if 7 or 9 is the right number, but that certainly sounds. I mean, with any board, once you get too many members, it starts to get a little unwieldy.
But the question is responsiveness, and last night the Clintonville Area Commission, the commission members were not being very kind to City Hall and feeling they aren't very responsive. So, I mean, this is a city now of nearly 900,000 people, and we're now in Ohio's largest county. We've passed Cuyahoga County. And so part of it's the number, but part of it's also having some real competition in the elections so that people have a choice and we get the best people on council.
I think the ward idea is probably pretty good. Not the way the City Hall is proposing it. That doesn't even that makes no sense to me. You know, putting everybody in a district and then letting everyone vote for them. What's the point? But yeah, I mean, I think the ward idea is good. I'm just not sure 13 is necessary.
This plan was put together by City Hall insiders. And so
it's called incumbent protection.
That's not the way to do it. Let the people have input into it and see what they come up with.
Mark, the argument is that if you have too many ward representation, it becomes a NIMBY. Not in my backyard. I can't work with somebody from another part of the city. That way, you need to have some at-large folks who represent the whole city. Is that a good comparison? What's the balance there? We talked about a balance earlier, but what's the balance between at-large and district?
Yeah, it's hard to know, and you see both of those models used across the country where you have a mix of ward and at-large representation, and sort of the way Columbus does it as well. And I don't know which is better, to tell you the truth, because you can see both sides, right? You can see the idea that, you know, if you have all at-large, you're not representing neighborhoods specifically well enough, but if you, as Jim says, you know, spread it out so far and you have all these blocks of representation, do you ever get anything done?
And there's no perfect system because a lot of neighborhoods might be 15, 20, 30,000 people, and if each ward councilman, even if all of them were elected at large, they're going to be representing, say, 100,000 people. And so you aren't going to have all neighborhoods all put together in a perfect manner.
Oh, with the Congress, those districts work really well. There's an interesting thing in here, Sandy. In the citizens' proposal, they do have limits on campaign contributions. We saw guys giving $50,000 to mayoral candidates in the last election. This would limit contributions to $1,000 for individuals. And it also calls for public financing. Should that be in there? Is this a poison pill?
No,
Is this gonna...
these are two separate issues. I do like the campaign limits. I think if you put good limits on them, you don't need the public financing. But why muck up this complicated issue with yet another complicated issue? Let's try them one at a time.
How about this, Terry? It's complicated, so stay with me here. For anyone who gives $50 or less to a city council candidate, that money would be matched with casino tax money or an assessment on the guys getting, or the women also getting, tax abatements. So you give $50 to your favorite city council member, you get $250 in public money. That helps the little guy, no?
Well, it's complicated, and my sense is that'll be the thing if there's a campaign. They'll have it that the casino money and gambling's buying politicians. They'll turn that into, they think's a plus, but it becomes something that will help sink the ship. So I think they should have kept it simpler and cleaner instead of trying to put the two together.
Jim, is the bottom line that to have a major change in how city government operates, you're going to need, people are pretty happy with how things are going now. Don't you need something to go wrong to have a groundswell of support for a major change, do you think?
I don't know. How about those bike lanes downtown?
Well, is that enough?
Is that good enough to get rid of them?
They want to
throw out some councilmen? I'm ready.
They want to take them to other parts of the city. But I mean, Columbus, we had 106 people murdered last year. We have a murder rate in Columbus that's twice what New York City is in LA. That's kind of embarrassing. So there's problems in Columbus, but
is it enough to overturn the current system?
Right, because most areas of Columbus are fairly safe, but there's some areas that it's really problems.
And do we know, do any other cities do public financing? I mean, I could see it on larger scales that it's talked about on statewide, federal. I don't know that I've heard about it on
box
city.
You check on your tax return. I don't know.
City level.
Yeah,
that's
but
presidential
if they
campaign.
leave public financing in, they'll attack it as wasting taxpayer dollars, and the streets won't get paved, and we'll have to lay off all the police. So that's their campaign commercials that'll be coming if they leave it in.
Ohio State has privatized another major function of the university. Trustees have voted to lease Ohio's energy facilities, its power plant, to a French energy company for 50 years. The firm will pay Ohio State $1.1 billion, but now Ohio State will pay the private company about $55 million a year to operate OSU's heating and air conditioning systems. OSU says the deal will increase efficiency on campus and pay for research and student scholarships. Critics call it a risky deal that will cost union jobs. Of course, this move comes after OSU privatized its parking operations a few years ago. Mark Niquette, this is a trend we see pop up occasionally, perhaps more often now. Public institutions privatizing either the whole thing or a good portion of what they do.
Right. These are called public-private partnerships, and the idea is it's another way to finance work that needs to get done. And in this case, the public entity doesn't have to put the big capital outlay. It's kind of a complex deal, but the estimate is that Ohio State's going to pay about $2.7 billion over the life of the 50-year contract, and the university wants to say that that'll be essentially what they would have paid anyway, except we get the billion up front. The thing about public-private partnerships, when they haven't worked because either the estimates were wrong in terms of the assumptions built into the revenue that was going to come in the case of, say, toll roads that got privatized, or there wasn't transparency with the deal itself. And that's one of the concerns, I think, about this OSU deal. We saw a lawsuit filed to try and get the details of the contract before the trustees voted on it. And when we've had problems like this, for example, in Chicago, there was a deal to lease its parking meters, and it went up like 48 hours. It was approved 48 hours after the deal came out, and it turns out the city left about $1 billion on the table.
And it's real quick, Terry, it's a 50-year deal, so any of us on this table who signed the deal aren't going to be around, either literally or at least on the jobs.
Well, but I think the bigger question is both the secrecy, as was mentioned, but what's next? Will it be the dorms? Will it be food service? Will it be the hospitals? In a way, it's good in concept, but parents worrying about tuition and students is just a backdoor way to jack up the fees and costs.
We'll see. Time for our off-the-record parting shots, and Sandy, we'll start with you.
I'm on a personal crusade to get people to help me change the name of the Freedom Caucus to the Callous Caucus. These people are very conservative. They don't support the Obamacare plan. They want to take away health care from the very truly young, the very truly old, the very truly sick. That's not about freedom. Please call them the Callous Caucus.
Terry. Sounds like you're getting in bed with Donald Trump and being against the Freedom Caucus. My big thing is, in the past week, the TV stations locally have been looking at parole monitoring, and it's kind of like that commercial about your computer. We're only monitoring, we're not doing anything to protect you. And I think this issue is going to continue to grow because this deals with the murder of the OSU student in the Short North.
Jim.
The Senate Finance Committee this week approved that the fight over the Medicaid expansion in Ohio is not over. There was quite an exchange that went on between Senator Bill Coley and the State Budget Director Tim Keene. Bill Coley was really giving it to him this week about the way that the administration paid for the expansion with state dollars, and they were very unhappy that it didn't go through a separate fund. And so this is 3 years later, we're still battling it out.
And Mark.
Ohio State's getting a lot of national attention for this energy deal because of how unique it is, but get ready to hear a lot more about public-private partnerships, because this is going to be a big part of what President Trump wants to do in terms of investing $1 trillion in U.S. infrastructure.
I'm all in favor of the deal if we can get double pane glass in the Fawcett Center newsroom. So hopefully. That is Columbus on the Record for this week. Check us out online. We're on Facebook and Twitter and our website at WOSU.org. For our crew and for our panel, I'm Mike Thompson. Have a good week.